Humans have always loved to look up at the stars. Maybe that's why we're called the stargazers. When the day's hunt was over and the fire burned quietly, the tribe looked up at the endless sky. The glowing moon, the countless stars, and the moving lights above filled them with wonder. They began to notice patterns. The same stars returning each season, the moon growing and shrinking, the night sky guiding their journeys. Some believed the shining lights were spirits. Others thought of them as animals in the sky, like the Great Bear or the Pleiades. Around the fire, children listened to elders, pointing at the heavens, passing down stories of what they saw. This wasn't just curiosity. It was the first step toward discovery. This is the dawn of humanity. Our story begins in the Stone Age. These people lived 2 million years ago. They used stone tools and lived in small groups. For them, the world ended at the horizon. Everything they knew and all they had ever seen was the forest, the plains, the river and the mountains. But above them stretched the endless sky, full of wonders they couldn't explain, full of dangers they couldn't predict, full of mysteries they didn't understand. One night, as the tribe sat around a campfire, someone noticed something strange. A bright light streaked across the sky and vanished. People pointed and gasped. Was it a shooting star? What did it mean? An elder stepped forward. He had seen this before. It meant rain. Soon, fat raindrops fell from the sky. People looked up in awe. They realized the sky was more than just a big, empty space above them. It was alive. It had power. It could affect their lives. Over time, the tribe learned more about the sky. They saw the moon wax and wane, the stars twinkle and shine, the sun rise and set. They watched meteor showers blaze across the darkness and shooting stars streak across the night. And slowly, very slowly, they began to understand the sky a little better. Many nights passed. The seasons changed. The hunt and the gathering continued. The life of the tribe went on. Slowly, bit by bit, they learned to read the signs of the sky. They learned which stars meant rain was coming, which clouds meant a storm was near. They even learned to use the stars to help them find their way. For thousands of years, humans have been fascinated by the sky. In ancient times, people didn't have a watch or a phone to tell the time. So they'd look up to the sky and see where the sun was to roughly guess it. And since there were no streetlights, they relied on the moon and stars to light their way at night. So you can imagine how important knowing the patterns of the sky was to our ancestors. If they wanted to travel, they needed to know where the North Star was. If they wanted to plant crops, they had to know when the sun would return in the spring. If they wanted to hunt, they needed to know when it would get dark. The sky gave them all this information. It's hard to say exactly when humans started to notice these patterns, but scientists think it must have been very early in our history. After all, humans are naturally curious. We love to ask questions, and we want to understand the world around us. Plus, humans are also social creatures. We like to share what we've learned and teach others. That's why the earliest humans probably shared stories about the sky, what they saw, and what it meant. These stories often took the form of myths and legends, stories about gods and heroes that explained why things happened. For example, many cultures had a sky god who controlled the weather. The Greeks had Zeus, the Romans had Jupiter, and the Norse had Thor. Of course, these weren't the first sky stories. Much earlier, people in Mesopotamia had already created myths about the sky. One of the most famous is the story of Enuma Elish, which describes how the world was created from the primordial waters of chaos. This epic poem was written around 1800 BC in the city of Babylon. All these stories may sound very different, but they all have one thing in common. They show how much humans have always loved to look up at the sky. To learn more ways that ancient people used astronomy, stay tuned for more information.